The sun rises over the 7 hills, but the scene before us is not the bustling metropolis of 2,000 years ago. Today, we see shattered columns and broken arches lying in silent repose, green with the moss of centuries. Yet, if we look beyond the decay, if we allow our minds to strip away the layers of time and dust, a different world emerges. This is the promise of our journey today, to use the lens of modern technology to peel back the ruins and reveal the gleaming white marble, the vibrant colors and the impossible engineering of a civilization that mastered the art of building. Through the magic of digital reconstruction, we will walk the streets of ancient Rome not as they are, but as they were. We will witness the birth of an architectural language that still defines our world, exploring the grandeur of the Colosseum, the divine perfection of the Pantheon, and the engineering miracles of the aqueducts. This is the story of stone and concrete, of ambition and intellect, a story told through the resurrection of the greatest city the world has ever known. In the beginning, Rome was not built of marble, but of mud and wood. As the early settlers scrambled up the Palatine Hill for safety, their structures were simple, fragile things designed to survive a generation, not an eternity. But as the Republic grew into an empire, the appetite for permanence began to rise. The turning point came with the discovery of a revolutionary material, a secret recipe that would change the course of history: concrete. The Romans did not invent the base ingredients, but they perfected the alchemy. By mixing volcanic ash, known as pozzolana, with lime and seawater, they created a substance that could set underwater and become harder over time. Imagine a digital sweep across a timeline, showing a small wooden hut dissolving into pixels and reforming into a formidable stone structure. This was the birth of opus cementitium, the Roman concrete that allowed them to defy gravity. Unlike the modern concrete that often cracks within a century, Roman concrete is a living geological material. Crystals grow within it over centuries, making the structures stronger as they age. Through AI reconstruction, we can visualize the chaotic, smoky construction yards of the Forum, where slaves and architects maneuvered massive blocks of tufa and travertine, laying the foundations for an empire that would stand forever. To understand Rome, one must first understand the roads and the aqueducts, the arteries and veins of the empire. Before the temples could rise and the baths could flow, the land had to be tamed. The most famous of these, the Appian Way, stretched like a stone ribbon across the Italian peninsula. In a cinematic reconstruction, we see the layers of the road peel back, a foundation of large stones covered by a layer of smaller gravel, and finally capped with tight-fitting polygonal basalt blocks. This was not merely a dirt path. It was a marvel of drainage and durability, built to allow legions to march rapidly to the frontiers. Above the ground, the aqueducts marched across the landscape, defying the valleys and hills with their graceful arches. Through the eyes of a drone simulation, we soar alongside the Aqua Claudia, watching the crystal-clear water rushing through the lead-lined spicus, or channels, perched high atop the stone arches. These bridges were not functional eyesores. They were statements of power, proving that Rome could bring the purity of the mountains into the heart of the filthy city. The AI restores the missing stones, closing the gaps in the arches, allowing us to hear the rhythmic echo of rushing water that once accompanied travelers entering the city, a sound that meant life, hygiene, and civilization. As we move deeper into the heart of the city, the reconstruction shifts to the political and social soul of Rome, the Roman Forum. Today, it is a field of ruins, a confusing maze of low walls and scattered columns. But as the digital grid overlays the physical landscape, the white marble begins to creep up the stones. The roofs are tiled in terracotta, and the Basilica Julia rises once more along the side of the square. This was the supreme court of the ancient world, a bustling hall where lawyers argued cases and merchants made deals. The reconstruction allows us to see the vibrant colors that have been lost to the sun. The statues, now white bone, were once painted in realistic flesh tones, their eyes made of glass and gemstones, staring down at the populace. The Temple of Saturn, with its imposing 8 columns, glows in the simulated afternoon sun. We can visualize the crowds in their togas, moving through the Via Sacra, the sacred way, while the smell of roasted meat from street vendors mixes with the scent of incense burning in the temples. The Forum was not just a ruin. It was a living, breathing organism of stone and people. And the AI brings this cacophony back to life, showing us exactly how the light hit the marble steps where Julius Caesar once walked. But the true test of Roman architectural genius lay in their ability to create massive interior spaces, a feat rarely seen in the ancient world. This brings us to the Pantheon, a building that has survived more or less intact for nearly 2 millennia. As we approach it in the Reconstruction, we see it not as the battered church it is today, but as a gleaming temple surrounded by colonnades. The level of the surrounding square is lowered to its original height, revealing the full grandeur of the portico. The massive bronze doors, now green with age, are restored to their original gold brilliance, reflecting the sky. But the real miracle lies inside. As the virtual camera passes through the threshold, we are engulfed by the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. The oculus, the great eye at the top, opens to the heavens, serving as the only light source. In the Reconstruction, we can watch the slow movement of the sunbeam across the floor, acting as a giant sundial. We see the intricate coffered ceiling, the sunken square panels that once held gilded bronze rosettes, catching the light and reflecting it into the shadowed corners. The Pantheon was built to symbolize the cosmos, the sphere of the earth resting inside the sphere of the heavens. Through the digital model, we understand the structural brilliance. The dome gets thinner and lighter as it rises, with the concrete at the top mixed with light pumice instead of heavy stone. It is a mathematical poem poured in stone, and the Reconstruction lets us stand beneath it without the weight of 2,000 years of dust, seeing it exactly as Emperor Hadrian intended. From the spiritual serenity of the Pantheon, we turn to the roaring excitement of the entertainment district, the epitome of Roman power and cruelty, the Colosseum. Officially known as the Flavian Amphitheater, this colossal oval was the largest amphitheater ever built. In a sweeping aerial view, the Reconstruction fills in the missing outer wall, revealing the facade's complex system of arches and engaged columns in the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian orders. We see the Velarium, a massive retractable awning, unfurling like a giant sail over the audience, operated by sailors from the Roman Navy, protecting thousands of spectators from the scorching sun. The digital Reconstruction removes the wooden stage floor that covers the arena today, exposing the hypogeum beneath. This was a vast underground labyrinth, a 2-level network of tunnels and cages where gladiators and wild beasts waited for their moment in the light. We see the complex system of elevators and pulleys, powered by slaves, capable of lifting a tiger onto the arena floor in seconds. The AI allows us to populate the seats with 80,000 spectators, a sea of color, their cheers echoing off the stone walls. We witness the arena, soaked in water to absorb the blood, and the lavish sets that were often constructed for the spectacles. The Colosseum was not just a stadium. It was a machine of entertainment, a symbol of the empire's ability to organize and control massive crowds, and the Reconstruction restores the terrifying beauty of this theater of death. Yet, Rome was not just for the elite or the spectacle seekers. It was a city of leisure for the common man as well, exemplified by the Baths of Caracalla. These were not merely places to wash. They were immense community centers, the ancient equivalent of a massive luxury resort, combined with a gymnasium, library, and meeting place. The Reconstruction here is particularly striking because of the scale. We see the massive central frigidarium, or cold room, with its towering cross vaults, once covered in glittering mosaics. The pools, now dry basins, are filled with turquoise water, reflecting the light streaming through high windows. We can virtually walk through the caldarium, the hot room where braziers once heated the air too, suffocating temperatures, and see the intricate hypocaust system underneath the floor, a network of brick pillars that allowed hot air from furnaces to circulate beneath the rooms. The AI paints the walls in their original vibrant hues, deep reds, bright blues, and golds, and restores the colossal statues of gods and emperors that watched over the bathers. This was the social heart of the city, where politics were discussed in the steam and business deals were struck while athletes exercised in the surrounding palestras. It is a reminder that Roman architecture was not just about domination. It was about the quality of life, providing a sanctuary of cleanliness and beauty for citizens of all classes. As the empire reached its zenith, the architecture became more complex and ornate, reflecting both the stability and the strain of the times. We travel to the foot of the Palatine Hill to witness the sheer excess of the Flavian Palace, or Domus Flavia. The Reconstruction brings back the opulence that housed the emperors. We see the banquet halls, the walls clad in precious imported marbles from Numidia and Egypt. The famous dining room of Domitian is restored, a marvel of engineering where the roof could rotate, spraying perfume and scattering flowers on the guests below. The fountains, now silent stone basins, erupt with water jets, choreographed to impress. We see the Stadio Palatino, the private stadium of the Caesars, where they race chariots for their own amusement. Through the digital lens, the contrast between the white marble of the palaces and the red brick of the multi-story insulae, or apartment blocks, where the poor lived, becomes stark. The Reconstruction fills these crowded high-rises with laundry fluttering in the wind and the sounds of the street, illustrating the vast divide between the rulers and the ruled. It paints a picture of a city that was a vertical, dense and chaotic megalopolis, a far cry from the orderly ruins left behind. However, no story of Roman architecture is complete without acknowledging the turning point, the moment when the city began to transform from a pagan capital to a Christian one. This architectural evolution is best seen in the Basilica of Maxentius and Constantine. As we view the Reconstruction, we see the immense nave, its massive vaults reaching toward the sky, far larger than anything the Romans had built before. This was the last great civic building of the pagan Rome. The AI restores the colossal statue of Constantine, fragments of which still exist, to its full 30-foot height, dominating the space like a god. But soon, the visual narrative shifts. The great temples begin to lose their statues, and Christian crosses appear. The Roman basilica form is adapted for worship. The Reconstruction shows the materials being stripped away, the bronze tiles from the roof of the Pantheon melted down for cannons, the marble from the Colosseum quarried to build the new churches of the Vatican. It is a melancholy visual sequence, watching the gleaming city slowly disassemble, the vibrant colors fading to gray, the roofs collapsing, and the trees taking root in the forums. The AI reconstructs not just the rise, but the slow, agonizing fall, illustrating how the grandeur of Rome was cannibalized to build the medieval world that followed. The mystery of Roman architecture lies not just in how they built, but in how they lost the knowledge. For 1,000 years, the world forgot how to make concrete that could harden underwater, forgot the engineering secrets of the dome, and forgot the structural logic of the aqueduct. The ruins became quarries, romanticized by painters, but feared for their sheer scale. Through our digital exploration, we see the layers of sediment build up over the forums, burying the ancient ground level under 10, 20, 30 feet of earth. The magnificent buildings become hills, their arches becoming caves for shepherds and their livestock. The Reconstruction peels back these layers of dirt, revealing the true scale of the loss. We see the broken shafts of the Temple of Venus in Rama, once the largest temple in the city, lying jumbled like pickup sticks. It is a visual representation of the Dark Ages, a time when the engineering genius of the past was regarded as magic, impossible to replicate. The AI serves as a time machine, allowing us to bypass the centuries of neglect and see the city in its prime, highlighting the tragedy of what was lost when the aqueducts were cut and the water stopped flowing. But the story does not end with decay. The legacy of Roman architecture is the foundation of the modern world. As our digital tour concludes, we see the ghostly overlays of Roman structures appearing over modern skylines. The facade of the Pantheon reappears over the capitals of Washington, D.C. and London. The arches of the Colosseum echo in the design of modern sports stadiums. The Roman grid system reappears in city planning from New York to Sydney. The Reconstruction morphs the ancient concrete into the steel and glass of today, showing the direct lineage of the arch, the vault, and the dome. We see the Pantheon's oculus influencing the design of the O2 Arena and the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. The visual storytelling emphasizes that we are still living in a world designed by Rome. The language of architecture, they codified columns, pediments, arches is still the vocabulary we use to communicate power, government, and divinity. The AI reconstructions are not just images of the past. They are a mirror reflecting our own built environment, showing us that we are the inheritors of a dream carved in stone. The power of these AI reconstructions lies in their ability to humanize the ruins. When we look at a broken column, we see a rock. When the AI rebuilds the temple, we see a place where people prayed, laughed, and cried. We see the graffiti on the walls, the wear on the steps, the shadows cast by the columns. It turns archaeology into empathy. We realize that the people who built these structures were not so different from us. They sought comfort, beauty, and permanence. They used the best technology of their time, just as we use ours, to leave a mark on the world. The digital restoration of the Forum, the Baths, and the Colosseum transforms them from cold monuments into warm, living spaces. We can almost hear the whispers of the senators, the roar of the crowd, and the splash of the water. It bridges the gap of 2 millennia, making the ancient world feel immediate and tangible. The technology allows us to step out of the role of a tourist looking at a pile of rocks and into the sandals of a Roman citizen walking to the market, reminding us that history is not a distant story, but a series of human moments stacked upon one another. Ultimately, the story of ancient Rome architecture is a story of ambition. It was the desire to conquer nature, to create order out of chaos, and to build something that would outlast the builders themselves. As the digital sun sets over our reconstructed city, the marble glows with a warm, ethereal light. The shadows lengthen across the Forum, the torches are lit in the Colosseum, and the stars begin to appear above the open oculus of the Pantheon. The city slowly fades back into ruins, the marble crumbles back into dust, and the modern skyline re-emerges. But the image lingers in the mind. We have seen the impossible. We have walked the streets of a city that existed only in memory and marble. The reconstructions show us that while the empires fall and the stones break, the ideas remain. The arch still holds, the dome still spans, and the aqueduct still delivers. We are reminded that the true architecture of Rome was not just in the concrete and the columns, but in the enduring spirit of human innovation that refuses to be forgotten by time.